Today we're going to learn about a new type of software called GeoGebra. Now we'll be using GeoGebra in this activity to help us explore and learn about coordinate systems. We'll go ahead and use those coordinates to create simple shapes within my first challenge activity. As we learn a little bit more about GeoGebra, we'll get a little bit more in depth with using 3D systems as well as spreadsheets. Now, before we get into learning about GeoGebra, there's a few things we have to understand about the toolbars in which we are going to be using. One of the toolbars is going to be our 2D graphics toolbar. Now, with your 2D graphics toolbar, there's several commands that we're going to be using for the My First Challenge activity. One of them is your arrow key, and that's your movement tool. That's going to allow you to move about the screen and select additional options. It's really important that you click on the movement tool before trying to click an additional tool. You then have the point tool, which is going to place specific coordinates onto your graphics window. We have a line tool with various options of all different types of lines, whether it be a line or a line segment. Then there's a special line tool, and this tool will be used to create perpendicular bisectors as we move through this activity. You then have the polygon tool, and your polygon tool will allow you to create a various array of shapes within that graphics window. Last but not least in our graphics toolbar is your circle and arc tool. Today we'll be learning how to create a circle with a specific radius. The styles bar is another toolbar that we'll be utilizing throughout these activities. With your styles tools, we have various options that are going to help us to navigate. The first tool that we see is our show or hide the axis. For this activity, we'll be working with a specific quadrant, so we'll need to have an axis showing on our screen. The next option is to show or hide the grid. We'll be changing the grid based on the activity that we are going to be doing. For our first activity, we're going to learn how to show the grid so that we can identify specific coordinates. Your home button is going to bring you back to your home or default view. The point capturing settings allows you to choose between the settings, whether it be automatic or snap to grid. Your settings icon will open the properties dialog box for the graphics view or a selected object. We'll be getting into much more of the settings icon once we get into changing the 3D graphics. Your display views will help you display additional views in that GeoGebra window. Now it's time for us to take a look at My First Challenge. The purpose of this activity is basically to learn the tools and how they function within GeoGebra. So here you can see we have a number ordered of steps 1 through 9 that we are going to be completing as we go through this activity. Before we go ahead and get started, the next thing we need to do is go ahead and open up GeoGebra. Go ahead and click on the link at the bottom of your Schoology page. When you first open up your GeoGebra, you may notice that you have a keyboard across the bottom of your screen if you are using a Chromebook. Go ahead and click on the X to remove that keyboard at this time. Now we have our basic layout in GeoGebra, and what we basically are going to be starting with is a coordinate system. Now let's go ahead and take a look at that styles bar that we were talking about before. Now that styles bar can be located in the upper right hand corner, and it may be collapsed depending on your computer. But go ahead and click on that blue circle and triangle, and that will expand that so that we can view those options. Here we have that show or hide axis where we can add or remove them to our screen. Here is our grid where we can turn our grid on or off, or we could change the layout depending on the activity that we are actually doing. For right now, we're going to simply stick with that grid view. You have your home button, which will bring you back to your home default view. We have the point capturing tool, which we can change to snap to grid, fix to grid, or off, but we can go ahead and leave that as automatic. We will get into the settings tool as well as the display views at a later time. The next thing we're going to be working on is creating our different shapes by using the tools in this upper left-hand corner. So for today, we're going to mainly focus on using the first 6 tools. So here is our move tool, and if we want to use that move tool, we can just click on it, and if we click on that screen anywhere, we could just kind of drag that around. Now we're going to be working in this upper right quadrant for today. So we're going to go ahead and position this so that we have a good view. Now our first task is to basically create a point with the coordinates of 8, 3. So remember, when plotting coordinates, we always start with our x-axis, which runs in a horizontal manner, and then we go ahead and plot the y-coordinate, which is our vertical. So we're going to start with using this second tool, which is our point tool, and we're going to click on that, and you will see that there's a drop-down menu. For this one, we're just going to go ahead and select the first one, which is point, and we're going to go over and find our coordinates of 8, 3. So starting at the 0, 0 origin, we're going to move over 8, and then we're going to go ahead up 3 and go ahead and click. Now, before you move to the next step, we want to put that tool down. So we're going to want to go ahead and click on that move tool. Otherwise, it's going to go ahead and place additional points on your grid. Now, if you cannot see all the numbers, you can simply zoom in by using your mouse wheel. Or if you do not have a mouse, you can just use this little plus or minus sign on the bottom right of your screen. You want to make sure that you can see all the whole numbers as you're doing this activity. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull that down just a little bit, because our second task to this is to add point B, which is going to have the coordinates of 10, 5. So again, I'm going to grab my point tool, start at the 0, 0 origin, and I'm going to go over to the number 10, and then I need to go up 5. Once I get to that point, I can go ahead and click, and now I have my coordinates of 10, 5. Next, we're going to learn how to draw a line that passes through A and B. So I'm going to go ahead and put that tool down. We're going to go over to the line tool, and here we're going to use this normal line. This will pass through the points, whereas a line segment will end at those specific coordinates. So I'm going to select the line tool. I'm going to go over and click on point A, and notice that if I click once, that line is looking for another point to pass through. When I go over to point B, I'm going to left click again, and it's going to add that second coordinate. I now have a line that is passing through AB. For my next task, we need to create a perpendicular bisector. Basically means we're going to create another line that is perpendicular at 90 degrees to line segment AB. So we're going to go up and find that perpendicular bisector, and that's under my special line tools. And we're going to find that perpendicular bisector, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to click on point A once, and you can see that that line is looking for another coordinate. So we're going to go over to B and select B. Here that will create a perpendicular bisector to line segment AB. Now we're going to move into creating a polygon. So remember, a polygon is a closed two-dimensional shape. I'm going to go over to my polygon tool, and for this one, we're just going to go ahead and use the regular polygon, or my polygon tool, the first one that you see. Once we click on that, we're going to go ahead and create a square using the coordinates 5, 0, 5, 5, 0, 5, and 0, 0. So now that I have that square, I'm going to go ahead and start at the bottom left origin, 0, 0, and my first point is going to be 5, 0. Clicking once, you're going to see that I now have this line. It's looking for another point to make my shape. The second coordinate pair we're going to use is 5, 5. So again, we're at 5. We're going to go up 5 and click again. Now you're going to see that it's starting to try to predict the shape that it wants to make. So for my third ordered pair, we're using 0, 5, which means we're going to stay on the 0 on the x-axis and go up to the 5, click again. We now have a triangle, and if we move that around, you can see it's still trying to work here on what it wants to create. For the last ordered pair, we're going to use 0, 0, which is my beginning origin. I'm going to go ahead and click, and there's your square. Now the problem with this is that it's still looking to continue that polygon. We need to end this polygon by going back to the first ordered pair, which was 5, 0. So if I go back to that first ordered pair and click again, it will complete my shape. Now the next thing I want to do is change the color and the opacity or the transparency of this. So in order to do that, before I click off, I'm going to go up to my styles tool, and I'm going to click on the set color and transparency. Here you're going to go ahead and pick any color that you would like. I'm going to go ahead and pick green for this, and you're going to notice that it changed to green. But I'm going to click on it again, and now I'm going to change the transparency. So if I go all the way to the left, it would be completely transparent. If I go all the way to the right, it would be a solid fill. We're going to set the transparency to 50%. Still want to see through it just a little bit. Now, once you've changed the color and the transparency, this is a good time to go ahead and click on that move tool, and that's going to lock that into place where we can move our screen. For our final part of our activity is we're going to draw a circle. And the circle is going to have a radius of 1, and it's going to occur at the ordered pair of 2, 2. So I'm going to go over to my circle tool, click on it. I'm going to find the circle with center and radius. Once I select that tool, I'm going to find 2, 2 on my grid, click once, and now it's going to ask me for a radius. The radius for this is going to be 1. Go ahead and select OK, and now we have our circle. Now we want to go ahead and change the color and the opacity of my circle as well. So go ahead and change your color. You can find any color that you want. I'll do more of a pinkish color, and you can see that it's outlined in pink. And then I'm going to go back and we're going to change this to a solid fill, which means I'm going to slide that all the way over to 100%. Once I'm done, I can go and select the move tool. And from here, I've completed my first challenge. At this time, you'll want to go ahead and take a screenshot. And at that time, you'll want to add that to your Google Slide document.